Had a good day, Jim? All days are good, Bessie, my girl. You'll never look on naught but the bright side, Jim, said his wife, helping him off with his coat. And you're right enough, for every day that comes brings us goodness and mercy from our Lord. Have lots of people been riding in the cab today, Daddy? Asked 6-year-old Nellie, climbing on the cabman's knee. Not one, my lassie. Daddy's taken ne'er a fare today. Not one? Oh, you don't mean it, Jim. And money going out of your pocket each week to Mr. Wilson for the cab. I've never known it so afore, Bessie, he said to his wife. Ain't that something to be thankful for now, that I can't remember a day, not for years, when I've not taken a sixpence, and I don't suppose it's likely to happen again either. That's bad, said his wife, her face clouding as she thought of Christmas drawing near and very little to spare to make cheer for the children. I suppose as it's so cold folks won't be riding if they've got time to walk. You'll be busier next week, Jim, when the boys and girls come home from boarding school. But it's unfortunate, for Jessie's bronchitis run away with a good lot of money, and we're getting a bit low. We'll have to be very careful. Never mind, old girl. Jessie's pulled through fine now, haven't you, my lass? Said Barton to his elder girl as he stroked her hair. And the money's better spent for milk and eggs and things like that than for beer and spirits. We haven't wasted it, that's a blessing. But you're so late this evening, Jim, that I says to myself, he's got a good fare, and he'll be coming in with rare good news tonight. Yes, I'm a bit late, my girl, but I took old Jack to the stables a good while ago, and upon my word, the old chap rubbed his head against me as much to say, don't be downhearted, Barton, old fellow. There'll be lots of folks wanting a lift in the cab tomorrow. Old Jack knows, said Jessie, nodding her curly head. Old Jack's as clever as if he could talk. He can talk, said little Nell. He says nay, as plain as possible. And it's a very good thing to say, my girl, when we're asked to do wrong. Don't you forget it, said her father. But I'll tell you, wife, what made me late. I dare say you'll laugh at me a bit, but it's better to laugh than cry. And she was pretty near crying, poor body. Somebody you've been helping, Jim, said his wife. You're always giving somebody a helping hand. Well, isn't that what we're in the world for? We know the meaning of mercy and loving kindness ourselves, wife, and we've got to keep passing them on. That's true, Jim, said Mrs. Barton as she buttered the toast that Jessie had made for her father's tea. But tell me whom you have been helping now. 'Twasn't much to do, but it just caught her the train, he said, between his mouthfuls of toast. I'd put old Jack up and I was coming home when I saw a lot of young fellows, silly chaps old enough to know better, making fun of a queer-looking old body, the kind they calls a country bumpkin, with a great big umbrella and a big basket. She'd asked one of them the way to Paddington Station, and they was telling her all wrong and confusing of the poor old body's head. She kept dropping of her parcels and she seemed all tired out. Ah, just how I felt when I first come to London. The noise do seem to turn one's head. Poor soul. She told me afterwards as she were a servant on a farm in the country, and she's been there years and years, and she'd come up by excursion to see her married sister that's a widow down in Deptford. And if she hadn't been and lost her purse coming back, else she'd have took a bus to Paddington. She'd got her return half of her excursion ticket in her glove, and she'd only 20 minutes to get the train. Well, I shouldered her baggage and cut along with her to Paddington and saw her into the excursion, and she got me to put my name and address on an envelope she'd got in her basket, and she says she'll get her master and mistress to write and thank me, for they was dreadful anxious about her being in London alone. You're a nice young man, escorting of the ladies about, said his wife, laughing. Come, Jim, drink your tea while it's hot. 'Twill do you good after your cold walk. The Bartons forgot all about the old farm servant, but the incident was brought to mind by something that happened on Christmas Eve. On coming home with some fruit he had bought for the children, Barton found a man in the street bearing a great hamper and looking for his number. Barton quietly unpacked the hamper at his mate's next door, wanting to give Bessie and the children a glad surprise. But soon he had to rush in and exhibit the turkey and tell them of butter and ham and apples and jam and a huge cake that had come from that country farm in thankfulness for his kind act to a bewildered old lady. Well, I never, said Mrs. Barton. It's quite a feast, and our neighbours must share it. Mince pies too, do you say? Think of that, children. That wasn't a day of bad luck after all, was it, Jim? No, no, my girl, there's no bad luck can befall them as trusts the Lord and sings thanksgiving, whether it's sunshine overhead or clouded skies.